Superior Iron Man, the villainous alternate version of the popular billionaire superhero I know that you know. But do we know everything about him and his story? Maybe you do, but then again, maybe not. Let's get into it and look at the top 10 superior Iron Man facts you need to know. At number 10 are the total personality resets that take place to both turn Tony Stark inverted and to turn him back to normal. The first inversion happens in 2015's Avengers and X-Men's Axis number 9 when a magical spell changes Tony Stark's personality and turns him into a darker version of himself, which then becomes Superior Iron Man. He has all his worst traits brought to the forefront and acts on all of them basically right away. The other personality change that takes place comes right after Superior Iron Man's story ends. This version of the character only really gets 9 issues before he's turned back to normal in the Secret Wars storyline. And although, spoiler alert, he seems to die at the end of the 9-issue run, this is still an unusually abrupt shift that takes place with Tony Stark appearing as normal again in Secret Wars. This may be a sign that the writers had some issues finding a way to transition Iron Man out of this phase, but although it does make sense that this might be a tough thing to do properly, the way he kinda just goes back to normal after everything he did in those 9 issues, it's a little jarring. At number 9 is that Superior Iron Man makes serious efforts to purchase a media conglomerate. After selling a dangerous weapon to international buyers and making billions of dollars, he decides that his next move will be to try and control how the public views him. Although the deal doesn't actually go through, this effort just shows how different this version of Tony Stark is from the one we're used to. He's still just as smart, but he's more willing to take major risks and hurt people in the process. He's so driven to make this purchase go through that he actually offers double what the company is worth to ensure that he can carry out his plans. And if he had gotten control of the media empire, his ultimate plan would probably have gone through in the end. Already having control over the masses using the Extremis virus, imagine how airtight his plan would be if he also had their opinions in the palm of his hand. Luckily, the plan doesn't go through, but it's close. And that is one of the things that makes this version of Tony Stark so terrifying. He's still a relatively personable character who's good at masking his intentions. So him trying to make this purchase and getting so close to actually closing the deal shows how quickly people are ready to allow a dangerous criminal to carry out his evil plans. At number 8 is the fact that Superior Iron Man releases a popular free app to the public, which actually turns out to be a virus called the Extremis 3.0. Tony Stark's first move after his personality is inverted is that he moves to San Francisco and develops an app that he then uses to try and control the masses. The app itself is so powerful and addictive that it becomes one of the most popular apps in the world very fast, with the app starting as a free service and the effects being that it offers people beauty, intelligence, and good health. It's no wonder why it gets so popular so fast. But the catch is that the app is only free for the first day, before you're obligated to pay $100 a day to keep it going. This is speculated to be a metaphor for modern mobile phone technology and the way that the public gets obsessed with it. It may even be a metaphor for the evils behind some social media developers not having the foresight to see the detrimental effects their technology has on its users. At number 7 is that Superior Iron Man actually turns Alcatraz into his own evil lair. After Tony Stark moves to the West Coast, the app isn't the only thing he creates to get himself more power in the city. He also makes the decision that he wants to settle down and buy some property to help strike up business with other investors. But this version of Stark decides it's more his style to buy a place that's right out in the open. So out in the open that it actually takes up a whole island, Alcatraz Island. And if you're not familiar with what Alcatraz Island is, it's right off the coast of San Francisco in complete view of everyone living in the city. And Stark doesn't keep his new structure humble or hidden by any means at all. He builds an enormous secret lair that he calls Stark Island, sort of like a classic evil lair that a villain from a James Bond movie would work out of. And although it's all done legally as far as we can tell, this is just another example of Superior Iron Man's grandiosity and arrogance as a villain. At number 6 is that Superior Iron Man develops a whole new armor called the Endo-Sym Armor Model 50. If you know about this suit of armor, you'd know that it's considered one of the most powerful out of all Iron Man's suits. The main property that sets this suit apart from the others is that it's made of a symbiotic material, or at least draws from the physiology of a symbiote. This means that Tony Stark can summon the armor from wherever he is, and it will crawl or float over to him and cover his body. It then hardens around him, becoming stronger than steel and arguably stronger than the original Iron Man suit. And just like a symbiote, it has properties that makes it seem like it's alive. So with a suit that's even more alive than the HUD and AI assisted original armor, it's also able to match his senses and support his each and every move without needing much verbal communication. For example, the suit actually turns red when Tony Stark gets angry, which is a pretty awesome feature actually. Even though it's basically just an aesthetic function, it proves that the armor is a living thing, which somehow makes Superior Iron Man even more intimidating than he already was. At number 5 is that Superior Iron Man starts drinking again. Normally, Tony Stark has a natural tendency towards drinking, and so he's put up some pretty serious boundaries in the past against the habit. But when his personality is inverted, Tony Stark naturally becomes more of a drinker than ever before, except with a more positive and relaxed approach to the activity. To be fair to the original Stark though, Superior Iron Man is only able to do this because of Extremis 3.0. Using the technology to keep himself healthy and relatively unaffected in any negative way by his drinking, Stark is able to indulge all he wants without issue. And in my view, this is yet another strange trait of this inverted Tony Stark, which shows another unlikable side of the former good guy. Something about him indulging in a gluttonous, unregulated lifestyle rubs me the wrong way, probably because the typical Tony, despite his issues, is able to regulate his habits and use self-control to keep himself in line, whereas Superior Iron Man is just letting loose. And although drinking surely isn't a crime, it's just an example showing that this Tony Stark isn't about to practice any self-control anytime soon, at least during this storyline. At number 4 is that Superior Iron Man actually erases Matt Murdock's memory. One of Superior Iron Man's first threats in the series is none other than Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil. And it's because Murdock starts to realize the harmful effects of Extremis 3.0 and decides to investigate. During this time, Daredevil occupies San Francisco as well, so this issue is all around him at all times during this storyline, and he has a hard time not noticing it. But what he finds even more disturbing is that Stark has actually been forcing the virus into people without their consent, and he's doing this through the water supply. So Daredevil does all he can think to do and fights Tony before threatening to tell everyone unless Stark stops what he's up to. But this is a big mistake because Stark instead immobilizes Murdock with his Endo-Sym Armor and wipes his memory from the last few days. And although this is a very petty move, it does work and pretty much neutralizes Murdock's motives to take down Stark's plans. If you know the comics, you know that mind wiping is known as a pretty awful thing to do to someone, even for the worst villains. So this is a pretty nasty move by this version of Stark, who isn't even yet showing his worst side here. At number 3 is the Iron Sight program that Superior Iron Man puts in place in the city of San Francisco. When his own app coerces people into spending ridiculous sums of money per day, they start to resort to violence and other crimes to afford the service. And instead of discontinuing his app for the greater good of society, he instead develops a whole program to monitor and control the masses that he calls the Iron Sight program, which is basically a giant fleet of drones flying around San Francisco, watching people and ensuring that they're all staying in line. This would include keeping crimes down, but also monitoring internet searches and other intrusive initiatives like that. It gets to the point where basically anyone with a device finds themselves constantly accompanied by an Iron Sight drone wherever they are. This shows another side to Superior Iron Man and the lengths he will go to have complete control and total autonomous power over the people of San Francisco. At number 2 is that Superior Iron Man actually restores Daredevil's vision. After he's confronted about the evil motivations behind the Extremis virus, Tony Stark decides he wants to show off the power of the virus to convince Daredevil of its efficacy. But he does it in a really vindictive and manipulative way. Daredevil accuses him of playing God, so Stark responds by saying that he's actually just playing human, and uses the virus to restore Matt Murdock's sight. This understandably overwhelms the typically blind hero and shows how much power Stark has actually amassed since being inverted during the Axis storyline. But this way of displaying his power is pretty shocking and arguably pretty cruel as well, especially considering Daredevil's sight is once again taken away once the effects of the virus wear off. The normal Tony Stark would never have shown off his power in this way. Well, he also wouldn't have developed such a dangerous and nefarious technology in the first place. But still, this act is pretty wild and something that people often overlook the significance of. At number 1 is that Superior Iron Man actually fights Captain America. This fight is definitely more well known in the context of top Superior Iron Man facts, but it's important to mention and put right at the top of the list because those who don't know about this battle need to know how crazy it was. Because this fight is arguably even more epic than when the two fight during the Civil War storyline. All of the buildup of Superior Iron Man becoming evil comes to an epic climax in issue 44 of Avengers, which is when this event takes place. It's also, spoiler alert, the last issue that we see Superior Iron Man in, because he actually dies at the end of the battle. Although Captain America doesn't really take the win either, they both die in a helicarrier crash. But as sad as that is, this is probably the only way Superior Iron Man's reign could have come to an end, with the only other person who knows Tony Stark as well as he knows himself taking him down for good. It's hard to say if without this intervention that Superior Iron Man would have ever concluded his tyrannical tirade, but it's good that Cap stepped in to put a stop to it just in case, thus capping off the short run of Superior Iron Man as a fun and suspense-filled storyline. Okay, that was the list for today. Thank you for watching, everyone. Please leave a like if you enjoy this kind of stuff, and maybe subscribe if you haven't. My name is Ben Ball, and this has been Top 10 Nerd. See you next time.